When I went to summer camp around, let's say, age 14, probably, I borrowed my mom's point and shoot camera. And I found that it was a great opportunity for me to start conversations with people and make friends. Because when I was going to school, I probably, let's say, was one of the 10 least popular kids. And I didn't know that there was an extrovert living inside of me waiting to come out. And so I love the idea that I could use that camera to start up conversations and make friends with new people. And somewhere along there, I married that with the idea that I also collected sports cards at the time and really enjoyed following sports. And so I thought like, oh, I want to become a sports photographer. So then I started doing that for like the school newspaper and the local community paper, and then that eventually led into a career in journalism, where I worked for a medium-sized daily newspaper. I worked for two of the world's two largest news services or wire services, where I would create content wherever I was for publications around the world. And it's funny that I went from that kid who loved sports to then going to these sports events and not caring about the sports events themselves, just caring about knowing what was happening and capturing the outcome of the game and getting the right pictures to match the story that day. Now, actually, I get to photograph. I've come full circle. I get to photograph professional athletes sometimes for their trading cards. And when I do that, I have no idea who these people are. And that if I were, the 13-year-old in me who started in photography would have would freak out at the opportunity that I have today to meet and work with these people. I would also probably be very ashamed of me for the fact that I have no idea who these athletes are usually when I meet them. Um, but that actually seems like it's to my advantage sometimes because um, I'll just start talking to them like, "Oh, so where did you go to college?" And they expect that every person that they've ever met knows everything about their bio, and it just shows that I have no idea. And then I feel like it sort of brings down the barrier, and we just sort of talk as people. So it's
That's, I
rather
mean,
interesting.
that's usually one of the most important things is connecting with your subject and just being able to strike up a conversation and and that way everybody's nerves it just lowers everybody's nerves, and everybody's like on a level. Um, I was I was shooting a model yesterday and I was talking to her about exactly that because um it's so important to kind of build that connection, pretty much, well, as soon as possible, really, before, you know, before things, because that's often is the thing. Like when you're, I think for me, when you're in a shooting, you just don't connect with the person that you're shooting. That's when things just get really frustrating for me anyway, and I just don't feel like I can get the results that I'm looking for, um, if I can't make that connection. So that's really something I've had to learn for sure.
Absolutely.
So, um, so when you started in photojournalism, what was that? How did you make that transition to commercial photography?
Yeah. So, right out of the gate, probably there would be opportunities where you would get asked. Uh, there would be a public relations company that needed a photographer to take these journalistic style photos in order to release them to the press so that they could get publicity about whatever thing that they were doing. So I would get referrals for that type of job and I would start doing those. And then eventually I would meet, let's say that I would get hired to go photograph the CEO of a big company, and then I would meet someone while doing that, and then that worked in the marketing or communications department for that company, and then maybe they would hire me later to shoot their advertising or their corporate headshots and that sort of thing. So it was just sort of getting those introductions, and then those converting into commercial photography. So the same thing that was happening with that also happened when I started um, uh, photographing models from a website called Model Mayhem. Um, that I started working with stylists both for fashion and for hair. And then eventually those would lead to some referrals too for some other work. So on one of those shoots, I met a hairdresser who happened to be the art director for a beauty education company. And then that led to me working with him in order to create this beauty education curriculum. And then that type of photography in the beauty industry started being probably, I don't know, maybe half of my income, let's say, before I started teaching other photographers. So it's, you never know like where all these connections are going to, you know, where they're going to get you eventually. But we're always just meeting people and learning and growing. And, I kind of joke sometimes that I'm on my third career as a photographer, having started off in photojournalism, then going over to commercial, and now into education. So hopefully this is it because I really love doing it. I really love everything that I get to do right now. But who knows where the universe may take me in the future.
But that brings us back to the introduction to this episode, actually, how to build a long-lasting career in photography. And it's, I think things are different now compared to what they were like maybe 50 years ago, where you could literally do the same thing for your entire career. Um, and it feels to me like there is a need today in today's world to be able to, pivot and shift and change, because otherwise there are things around you that change so quickly, technology being one of them, for example, um, that will potentially prevent you from being able to continue with that same career. And it might actually just throw you out of business unless you're willing to change. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed that clip, then press here for the full episode in glorious Technicolor. Hey, and don't forget to subscribe.